Hi. So last video for the Amy Winehouse song. This is what they call groove 3 on the video, which is about 1 minute 5. So it's after we've done the that section 2 or groove 2 as they call it on the video. Now I think I said at the end of my last video that after groove 2 you just go back to groove 1. That's not quite right, I realise. But right in the sense of you're doing that same pattern again, basically. Certainly the same rhythmic pattern that you're doing in the intro and the verse. So you know in the intro you're doing that rhythmic pattern and that pattern, harmonic pattern, and in the verses you're doing the same rhythmic pattern but slightly different note pattern. So you got ba da 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 ba da 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 da. That's what I mean by the rhythmic pattern. Or so ba ba da 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 da, or ba ba da da ba da da. So that was the intro, then followed by the verse. The notes are different slightly, but the rhythm pattern is exactly the same. Ba ba da 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 ba da 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 da. Yeah, and you've got that same pattern pretty much with some slight embellishments in groove 3 or at the end of the song. What changes is that the chord sequence changes. So we've had D minor for the intro, and then D minor, G minor and A7 for the first verse. Then when we have, I guess I'd call this the verse at the end, or anyway the outro of the song, the last bit of the song, instead of D minor, G minor, A7, we have D minor, A minor and E7, yeah, or D minor, A minor and E7. So we're taking this boxy pattern, basically this, and taking it from D minor to A minor, and then to E7. So we've got it here, starting on the 5th fret of the A string, that's the note D. Then here, starting on the 7th fret of the D string, that's the note A. And then we've got it here, oops, starting on the 7th fret of the A string, which is the note E. Yeah, so that's not exactly what's happening. I was just playing the intro pattern, but just to show you how closely it's linked to the intro pattern, and indeed the pattern of the first verse, which was very linked to the intro pattern. So this is what we have for this pattern, groove 3. And yeah, kind of like I said, the main reason that it changes is because we have a different chord sequence, a different chord progression. So it starts off, I'm at about 1 minute 5 in the video that I sent you the link to, and so we've got, whoops, I got it wrong already. We've got, because I was going to go to the G minor chord, but it actually goes to an A minor chord, so we go from, and so instead of fingers 4 and 3, I'm going to have fingers 3 and 2, because I need a finger to get to that 6th fret of the D string, then go up to the 7th fret for the A chord, for the A minor. So we've got this for the D minor, and I did it with fingers 4 and 3 again, and then I've got no finger to get to, then I'd have to really jump quickly to get to that 6th fret of the D string. So I've got to remember to do it with fingers 3 and 2. Yeah, and then on that bar of A minor we just got a sort of little extra note there on the second beat. So instead of, we've got, so we've got 7, 7, then 7, 7, 7, 7, 6, and this is our leading note back up to fret 7 again for the E7. And here on the E7 we got that pattern again of the two fingers together in the same fret on adjacent strings. Whoops, sorry. So those notes are from the E7 chord. This note is also actually from the E7 chord, but it also serves as a lead up to the A minor chord, which we go back to. So we had D minor, A minor, E7, back to A minor. And there on that A minor we got, so a bit of slightly faster work. So make sure you're doing your alternating fingers. When you go from string to string doing alternate fingers, you can choose to go, look, I'm doing first on my picking hand, first, second, second. You can do that, which is called a rake. So I've plucked the D string, 5th fret with my second finger. And then because I'm doing the rest stroke, and it's come to rest on the A string above it, it makes it quite easy to then just use the same finger to pluck that string, that next string. So from the D string to the A string. So you could either do it like that, in terms of fingers, first, second, second, or you could continue the alternating fingers, first, second, God, hang on, first, second, where am I? There. Sorry. So we've got first, second, then first, second, first. So it'll actually come on the first finger probably, your rake. So did you see that? I got to the 5th fret of the D string, I plucked it with my first finger, and then I used my first finger to rake down to the A string, or physically up. In terms of pitch down, but physically up. It's annoying, isn't it? But whichever finger you rake with, that's one way that bass players do it. So they'll be doing alternate fingers on the same string, and then very often use that rake to go from one string to the next. And the reason it works, like I said, is because it's this rest stroke. If they were doing a free stroke, it would mean 2 discrete movements, which would be much more effort and difficult to do fast. If you're doing that, difficult to do it all with one finger, but if you're doing this, the rest stroke, pretty easy, because you're just, as it's called, raking that movement. So you can either do the rake, or you can continue the alternating fingers, first, second, second. I find that a bit more awkward, but some people do that. So I did first finger there on the D string, and then second finger there on the A string. So continuing the alternating fingers, first, second. Okay, so that first line, because on the video you see it 4 bars at a time, so we've got, just went off the screen, so we got, and again I keep doing that, so don't use 4 and 3 fingers, use 3rd and 2nd. So you got your little finger free for that note. No, that wasn't great timed. Yeah, I'm going to I have to work on that. I'm not familiar enough with it. So for that bar of A minor, okay, so we got that far. Now let me just play it. And now on. Right, so pretty much the same thing there, except for the last bar we've got. And I did it again. Need to do fingers 3 and 2. Now that last bar, the previous 3 bars that I just played, the D minor, the A minor and the E7, they were pretty much exactly what I've just played you, but slightly simpler, simply because there's fewer notes in them. So we had the D minor, I think was exactly the same, I mean the pattern exactly the same. And I did it with fingers 4 and 3 again, fingers 3 and 2 should be. The only one where you've got more notes is that very final bar of A minor, and you've got a rest at first, a half beat rest or an 8th note rest, so 1 and 2, 1 and 2. Then you got this climb up the power chord shape. We're on an A minor. Power chord works for a minor chord or a major chord or a dominant 7th chord because it just has root, 5th and root again at the octave of the chord. So you've got this climb in terms of fingers, or another way of putting it is you've got to cross a lot of strings, or 3 strings. That bit, 5, 7, 7. And then we've got this bit, 7, 5 on the D string and 7 on the A string, which we've done before. And like I said, you can choose to do that with a rake on this hand, your picking hand, no matter which finger it is. There I just raked with the first finger, or there I just raked with the second finger, because I was doing alternating fingers on this string, and then the rake from D string to A string. But before that, this climb, that bit, remember not to have all the notes ring out at the same time. You don't want that. You don't want... Although, if you're doing these rest strokes, that kind of takes care of it for you, because as soon as I play this string and my finger comes to rest on this string, I play the E string, play the A string, and then the E string is muted. But for good practice, you don't want this hand to press down on all strings at the same time like you would do if you were playing a guitar chord. You want to have that shape, but you're playing that string first, then that one, but in fast succession, which is why you have your hand ready in the shape, because you're going to be doing these notes quickly. You're going to be playing these notes quickly. Now, people often find this difficult at first, this climb across the strings, or movement across more than one string, more than 2 strings, movement across 3 strings, the E, A and D strings. So you've got to get used to plucking E string, A string, D string. And that can take some work because it requires accuracy. And you can see where my thumb is moving from. To get the E string, my thumb is up here, just resting on the side of the body. As I go to the A string, I brought my thumb down so that I can reach the A string and steady my hand. And then, as I pluck the D string, there's a very slight change of the angle of the hand just because it's pivoting on the thumb. Yeah? And then we have, so that crossing strings, 3 strings, can take some work, okay? Because it needs accuracy. So take it slow. So we've got 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2E and whoops, 1E, 1 and 2, 1E, bloody hell, the timing, 1 and 2E and 3 and 4E and take it really slow. Just listen to the video, get the timing, and then try and slow it down. Maybe just get that bit first. And then once you feel okay with that, then add. So we got, and then you can add. Yeah. Okay, I hope that's okay. So that's the whole thing.